What's up, chess player? Do you ever want to be humiliated? I don't think so, but sometimes you should to become better, to improve your life and to improve your chess. And today I want to roast one of my subscribers' games that was one of the most amazing games I have ever seen. Such a roller coaster with evaluation changing from up to down. Pretty much every move. I mean, that is so instructive for you guys, so please let me walk you through this game and explain you all of the essential points, and after this game you're gonna become a better chess player no matter what your level is. But this game has been played by a 1200 rated player, my subscriber, so let's see what happened here. Mikhailo Georgievich played here as white. I hope I pronounce your name correctly, or at least close to that. So the game started with e4, e5, just a game of two around 1200 rated players. Here the Rui Lopez and black start with move queen f6, which is already a very weird move. Never develop your queen too early without a very essential reason to do that. Sometimes they do that to create a huge threat for the opponent, but you just need to know how to do it and when to do it, and usually you just don't want to develop your queen that early, because that is taking some squares away from your minor pieces, and that queen can be attacked later on, for example by the bishop, and you're gonna lose another time. So time is the most essential thing in the opening. You want to use it wisely. You want to develop as many pieces as possible, as fast as possible, and as active as possible. That is a golden rule, but you know that for sure because I have explained it 1,000 times already, and yet people are still playing a6 instead of developing some pieces, instead of, I don't know, taking your opponent pieces here on d4, because you have 1, 2, 3 attackers. The opponent has 2 defenders. Why on earth can't you just take it? And how on earth could you play d4? Because, I mean, you're making this move. How can you not at least calculate the number of attackers and defenders? That is also another rule that I'm always teaching you, but you still forget about that. What can I do? Well, yeah, it's so simple. Just make sure before you make your moves that you have at least as many defenders as your opponent has attackers here. If you don't have enough, then you either should add more and prepare that move, or should just forget about this idea and, for example, try to use the fact that the queen is so weirdly placed. For example, play knight c3 with an idea to play knight d5 and double attack your opponent's queen and pawn on c7, and afterwards, once this queen leaves, you can play d4 if you want, because it's equally good to add another defender and remove one of the attackers. So d4 has been played, black didn't take it, and white played bishop to g5 here, as I have mentioned, well, trying to use the fact that the queen is so weirdly placed here on f6. Queen to g6 has been played, and now bishop to a4 going back. I mean, once again, try to never go back if there is something else, if there is another option. And secondly, always start with the most active move. Because if you take here on c6, you're not only not going back, saving some time, but also it's very tactical. You're removing the defender of this very important pawn on e5. So after takes, you can now take here on e5 if you want, not with a knight, because that would blunder the bishop, but with a pawn. The drawback is, of course, that your opponent is also attacking the pawn here on f4. He's taken with that with a check. So you're calculating the variations. It's a constant process. It's not like you're seeing, okay, I'm winning the pawn here, let me grab it, I don't care about anything else in the world. No, that's not exactly like that, but rather you calculate the variations here. So when you come to a conclusion, that's a check, I don't like that. What can I do? Well, if the problem is a check, then you can just make the castles. Now the pawn on e5 is still hanging. If he takes, you have rook e1, and against such a king, I mean, you're gonna always win. Remember, please, the development is always the key to success. So the more pieces you're gonna develop, the simpler it's gonna be for you to play, to create threats for your opponent, and to win the game. So that could have been the plan. White played here bishop a4. Why that is a bad move? Well, because that is allowing, once again, black to take the upper hand and take here on d4, and actually this position is completely hopeless, because not only black wins the pawn on d4, the central pawn, an incredibly weird, I mean, very important, the most important pawn on the board, you can say, but also knight takes f3 is a huge threat here, because that's going to be a check, and then the bishop on g5 is unprotected. Also, the e4 pawn is still hanging with a check. I mean, yes, that is incredible. Black is playing here b5, which is not that bad, but just not using the most active move. Bishop went back to b3, and the bishop is definitely more active here, so from that perspective b5 also doesn't make a lot of sense if you have knight takes d4, of course. Now queen takes e4, check. Still, black is definitely having the initiative now. Bishop e3. Well, if you're making a move back, definitely something went wrong, because you're basically losing your time. You play bishop g5 first and then bishop e3 back. If you have any opportunity to avoid that, always do that. Only if it's your only option, then, well, you can't do anything else. And here it might be the case because you can play queen e2, but that would lead into as an endgame without 2 pawns, because d4 is going to be lost here after takes somehow, maybe that way, or maybe knight takes e4, something like that. Anyway, that is a totally hopeless endgame for black. So bishop e3 has been played, now knight b4. That is another turnaround here, because you just never want to play with just 2 pieces. It's so bad. It's like not using the whole potential that you have. It's like using only 2% of your brain instead of activating all of it, all of its potential. So here, knight on c6 once again was a very important defender for this. Pawn on e5. You could, of course, take the pawn, just eliminate the whole problem. Now you don't have a hanging pawn. And if you exchange everything, of course, that would be great for you because you have extra material. Remember, you have some material up, you exchange the pieces. You have some material down, you try to create some initiative, some threats, and compensate that material. So, knight b4 has been played. I don't even know what is the threat, because c2 pawn is well protected. What the knight wants on b4, I can never explain it. Bishop takes f7 has been played. I mean, the game is getting incredibly sharp, and this time bishop f7 is actually a very nice idea, because you can't take it as knight to g5 comes with a fork, and I'm just afraid that for such a level it might be too smart. I mean, you're leaving your pawn on c2 unprotected. You have to be careful with that. But if you know what you're doing, then it might just win the game. So let's see whether white did everything correctly here. So the next move is knight to c3, another horrible blunder, because that allows knight takes c2, and maybe white saw that knight takes c2 is possible, but he was thinking, okay, I'm attacking the queen, so that is not significant, because the knight would be hanging here, the king. Knight takes e2 has been played, the king went to e2, and now after king goes somewhere, maybe the knight is not that stable, but actually it's attacking a lot of stuff here. It's a triple fork. I mean, you never want to allow that. So if we go back here, this pawn is hanging. Yes, you can just return back there and defend the pawn, or you can castle, which would continue the development, open up new opportunities, develop new pieces. That is always the best thing you can do. And after knight takes c2, now there is no check. So that means you have a variety of different chances. You have knight to c3, you have bishop g5 check, you have everything at your disposal. And your king is still very secure. So before making something incredibly active, make sure to secure your king. So now queen to f5, knight takes e5, and yeah, once again, feels like white has a lot of initiative, but white sacrifices the exchange, of course. And that is what happened here. Now d6, trying to push the pieces back, and g4. g4 is a very weird move, because you don't want, especially as a beginner or an experienced beginner, let's say like that, you don't want to complicate things unnecessarily too much. Your knight is hanging, and you're attacking the queen here, which normally could be great, but there is a check, and you always start with a check, both for you and your opponent. So checks, captures, and threats, that is a golden formula every time you want to find the best move in any position, and you do it for yourself and for your opponent. So you're attacking the queen here, you should ask yourself, can my opponent give a check with this queen? Yes, queen c2, that is a one-move check, and then your knight is still hanging, so that is a bad variation for you. So you just never consider g4 anymore if you follow the golden formula. That is why it's so important. And yes, I understand that the problem is the queen is attacking the bishop, and so if you remove the knight, you're going to lose the bishop. So maybe you should try to find a way to save both of the pieces, and if your piece is under attack, what you can do is either protect this piece, but in this case it doesn't help because it's attacked by a pawn, so if you protect it even 100 times, still doesn't help, the pawn will take it. Or you can remove it. In this case, it doesn't help because the bishop is going to be hanging. You can play knight c6 check, but then still all of the pieces are going to be hanging, might not be such a great option. And third, you can create a counter threat. If your knight is attacked, you can attack the queen, like my subscriber did here, but just doesn't work tactically. Or you can attack the rook, which works in this case, bishop to d5. The rook is stronger than the knight, so that is a sufficient counter threat, and now the bishop is protected, and there are some other threats also to follow, so that would have been a nice opportunity. Now, black, for some reason, didn't start with a check. Remember, always start with a check. If you take anything out of this video, I ask you to start your calculation when you're trying to find the best move, always with check, then capture, and then threat. If you just use this one formula, but to find every one of your moves in every one of your games, you're gonna immediately jump in terms of your chess level, in terms of your rating, in terms of beating all of your friends. I guarantee you, please just do it. So queen to f6 now giving another chance for white to create something active like knight c6 check, and now bishop to d5 has been played, but yeah, the situation has changed. Every move is different, and now bishop d5, which was great before, is not such a great move now because there is also e takes d in the end of the day, and the queen protects that pawn. So knight to c6 was even better here because you're not losing any material at all, and then you play bishop to d5. But what has been played here, and here there was a very nice trick for white. Feel free to pause the video for a second and try to find the best move for white. Hope you have succeeded with that. The right move is not knight to c6, which has been played. That is a very strong move, but even simpler is here bishop to g5, which is attacking the queen here, and if you take, there is knight to f7 fork, and you're losing your queen. If you take the knight, then I'm taking the queen here, taking the pawn on c6 afterwards, and the material advantage is more than enough. But knight takes c6 is still a good move, not losing anything, but believe me, something incredible happened afterwards. It seems like this position is completely winning for white. It is, in fact, but yeah, something incredible happened. f3, knight to e7, finally developing some pieces, because if you look at this position, all of the black pieces, except for the queen, are still standing on the starting position. That is why I recommend you never develop your queen early, because you forget about the main stuff. The main stuff is to develop the minor pieces first, to make sure that your king is secure, and only afterwards develop your queen and the rooks. And that is the opposite of what happened here for black. The king is not secure, the queen is developed, and all of the other guys are still standing here and crying because of their miserable life. So never do that. Knight e7, finally, yeah, trying to get to at least kindergarten for those pieces, attacking the bishop, attacking the knight, knight e4, creating a counter threat. Okay, I mean, that's once again making life more complicated because a bunch of stuff is unprotected, but if you're careful, you can eliminate this knight on e7, for example, then take the rook and have, yeah, 27 extra pieces, enjoy the situation. But queen c1 has been played. Another very tricky move, once again, a correct one, because after knight takes d5, which is winning the bishop here, you have knight e7, discovered check, winning the queen. So far, so good. But king b6 has been played, and why making those tricky moves is so risky for the beginners? Because now white has played bishop to f4 and completely forgot about the fact that the bishop was hanging. I have no idea whether he knew that the bishop was hanging before, but before it didn't work out for black. Now it does. Now after knight takes d5, the position from a completely crushing for white becomes completely winning for black in just one move. That is how chess is amazing at the beginner level, and that is how much increase in terms of your chess level you can make if you just follow the golden formula. Because another very important rule, when your opponent is making a move, always try to understand what is the threat for you. Just forget about all of your plans, all of your ideas, all of your thoughts for a second. Just focus on your opponent. Okay, the king is on b6. Well, the idea is obvious. He wants to escape of the discovery check. But what else? What else is available to my opponent in this position? And of course, you always start with the formula checks, captures, and threats. There are no checks available, but there are some captures. Knight takes e6, while not dangerous because of queen takes. But knight d5 is a huge threat because the bishop is so important here, cementing the whole white's position. If you lose it, well, pretty much you lose the game. And that could have happened, but for some reason, black also didn't take it. I mean, why do you play knight e7 if you're not taking the bishop on d5 afterwards? That is so amazing. It feels like the beginner chess players have a very short-term memory. They play knight e7 over here. Actually, yeah, that was 3 moves. With an idea, I was supposed to attack both of those pieces. Then a few moves comes by and they defend correctly against a bunch of threats, and then they just forgot about the fact that in the beginning they played knight e7 to attack the bishop. I mean, I don't have any other explanation. Maybe you can explain it to me. Share it in the comments, please. So bishop f4 has been played, and now bishop b7, allowing white a beautiful move here, which I hope you're gonna find. Feel free to pause the video and find the best move for white. Okay, I hope you did it. That is queen to c5, queen sacrifice. The point is black took it, and now pawn takes, checkmate. The knight is controlling those squares, the bishop is controlling that square, the pawn is delivering a checkmate, and that is protected. So here you have it. I hope you learned a lot out of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm also making a bunch of mistakes and some things that are obvious to super grandmasters. I'm making those mistakes and they would laugh at me. And my job is to laugh at you so that you can learn out of it and not repeat your mistakes in your next games. So feel free to post your games if you want me to analyze it, but please remember to tell me if you're playing white or black. A lot of people are submitting the games and you just have the moves. You don't have any idea whether they're playing white or black. How the hell am I supposed to get it? So please do that. Otherwise, thank you very much for being with me. Definitely take a look at this video because I'm roasting a bunch of your games and that is very, very instructive for you. So definitely take a look and see you next time.